In this video, we're going to go over how to lay out sheets, create title blocks, create views, and go into visualization and styles. The first thing that we're going to start with is how to create a sheet. If you scroll down on your project browser, you can see I already have sheets created. You may have none. So right click and click on new sheet. When you do so, you may not have the same options as I do. So let's go ahead and go to load. You should be under English Imperial Library, the one that you already have or you had to download. Go down to title blocks, double click. Here select E1 30 by 42 horizontal. I have other options, but select E1 30 by 42 horizontal. Click open. It will appear here in the select title blocks. Again, make sure you select the appropriate one. This is the one. If you press OK, this is what you will see. This is a standard title block that Revit comes with. We're going to slightly tweak it. Left click on any portion of the title block and you can see it starts highlighting. Go to Edit Family. Here you are editing this family. What I want each and every one of you to do individually is to try to modify a few things about it. For instance, in my case, I want to move these to be a bit more to the right. I don't need all of them. I'll delete 2. You do this according to your personal needs. I will remove Autodesk. I will remove these lines, and I want to shift these lines higher. Again, everyone has to have their own individual way that you want to lay out your title block. So essentially you get the point. Once you finish laying things out, you can change things, you can remove things, you can add things. Some of these things, if you change them here, they will appear in every single sheet. So what I recommend when it comes to client name, sheet name, all of these things, keep them as they are, but you can move their location. For instance, project number, you can move here if you choose to. Same goes for this location. Everything else, feel free to move around. If you want, you can add a picture by going to insert and import image. You can move this entire thing by essentially doing something like this, selecting these elements, moving them to the left or the right. Play with it, make sure it's your individual work. Once you have finished, go to File, Save As, and go to Save As Family. Make sure you're going to stay in the same title blocks folder. Here, after the word horizontal, press spacebar and type in arc. Small or large letters, it doesn't matter. Press save. Essentially, you have created a new family in that same folder. Now click on load into project and close. If you go to the sheet you just created, the changes will not appear because this family is the original one. But if you click on it and go to the left side and click here, you will start seeing all the different possibilities of a title block that you can choose. We right now created the arc one, and this is the one that I have created. You click on the one you created, and this is what's going to change over here. Now let's fill out a few things here in the title block. The owner, you can put in your last and first name. Unnamed, you can write the name of the specific plan. Usually it is associated with the sheet name. So if you have your sheet over here, it's called unnamed. This is what is going to appear here. Project number, you can change it to 00.1, anything of that nature. Date, you can put today's date, drawn by your initials, checked by your initials, and that should be sufficient. Once you finish, you should have something that looks like this. Your last and first name, write floor plans, project number can be whatever you choose, date, today's date, drawn by your initials, checked by your initials, and the name A1. Next thing left to do for us is to start importing the views. Our views can be our floor plans, our ceiling plans, elevations, anything of that nature. Let's start with our floor plans. In order to create a floor plan to import in a sheet, and you can only import one view on one sheet. So if, for instance, under the floor plans, make sure you don't use the structural plans, but the floor plans. If you don't have a first floor name that is exactly the same way that I have, that's fine. Just go ahead and go to your first floor, left click it once, right click on that same name and click on duplicate view. Here select not duplicate with detailing, but simply duplicate. Once you've done this, it will open up. Here we do not want to see all of these things. So how do we go about hiding them? There's two ways of doing it. First, you can go to visibility and graphics, click added, and you will see different things that start popping up. All of these things essentially are elements that you can hide in your model. You can go to the filter list to just show architectural things, such as ceilings, columns. If they have a check mark, it means that they're visible. You can click on the plus sign to see what other elements within that category you can work with. You can change the thicknesses of the lines by clicking on override. You can change the pattern, the color, the weight. Essentially how this works, this is essentially a layer. Each of the elements that you have in your model belongs to one of these layers. If you open all of these things, you will see there is quite a bit of layers, and all of these layers are a part of your model. Then you can change the pattern of a specific element, its transparency. The cut means if the object is being cut through in your specific view, this is how it's going to be represented. If it's a white field, it does not mean it's going to be represented as white. It only means that there is no override towards that element. If you have something else that appears, for instance here, if we change the floors to have a pattern that is solid and we want all the floors to appear as magenta, you can see the lines will appear as magenta, and so on and so forth. So for the first floor, what ideally we would want to see is our exterior walls, our grids. We do not necessarily want to see the side elements such as parking spots, cars, trees, people. We just want to see the inside of the building and the outside. In order to hide any of the elements, first click on the element to see which category it belongs to. For instance, this RPC beetle belongs to Enlarged category. So let's go back to visibility and graphics, click edit. Let's go to Enlarged. Here, if we click on the plus button, you will see there are different subcategories that appear. There is a subcategory called vehicles, but if we uncheck it, it does not necessarily mean that all vehicles that we know appear to be as vehicles will turn off. In order for us to turn off all the Enlarged elements, we need to uncheck the main category. But for now, we're not going to do that. So that's one way of hiding elements in your view. Another way is if you want, you can click on a specific object once and then press HH. This will hide it. And once it's hidden or anything is hidden, you will see a cyan outline appears around your screen saying that temporary hide isolate view is on. When it's on, in order to see what you've hidden, you need to go down to where you can see glasses and a light bulb. Click on the light bulb, and the light bulb is going to show you in a specific color, for instance in this case a cyan color, what is hidden. So this element is hidden, and right here typically you can unhide it, but in this case for some reason it doesn't allow you to do so, but there's an easy way to unhide it anyways. Click on that light bulb again and click on the temporary hide isolate, and you will see options appear. If you press apply, it means that this element is going to continue being hidden unless you unhide it manually. If you click on the reset, all the elements that you've selected to be hidden in this view will reset. Another way for you to hide elements that will hide all of the categories of that specific element. For instance, I want to hide all of these cars at the same time very fast. I click on it and I press HC, hide category, and all of the vehicles disappear, and all entourage elements such as people disappear because they belong to one category, entourage. Another element I want to hide is parking. Click on parking, type HC, hide category, they disappear. I click on a tree, HC, and they disappear. If you have reference plain lines like I do, type HC and they disappear. Same goes for the section views if you need to hide them. Press HC and they disappear. The only thing we really care for in this first floor is, again, our exterior walls, our interior elements. So these lines that we have drawn here, they will not be needed. So let's click on one of them, type HC, and they will be hidden. Now what you can still see is our elevation tags. These are elevation tags. And for now, we're going to keep them. So right here, we're showing exactly what we want to see, except for a few things. For instance, a few lines here disappeared from the view that we originally had. You may have them appear. That's fine. That's not a big deal. Let's make sure that a few other elements in our view are going to be not so apparent in this specific view. So how do we go about doing this? For instance, these grids 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and A through E, we want them to be lighter. Go to visibility and graphics again. You know that these are grids. Grids can be either in the model category or annotation category. You'll have to look for them. I believe they are in the annotation category. And if you scroll down until you see G, here press the check mark for halftone. And what it will do, essentially, it will make the grids appear lighter, which is exactly what we need. Same let's do for our elevation tags. For instance, click on this elevation. You can see the categories views. If you click on the rectangle, it says elevations. So we need to make the elevation and views, both of them appear lighter. Go to visibility and graphics. Go to annotation. Let's go first to elevations. Scroll on down until you see elevations. There you go. And halftone. There you go. Essentially, elevations covered both our views and our elevation tag. Press OK. Essentially, this is the view that we want to show on our sheet. But in order for us to do all the work and not have to repeat it, let's save the progress. Click on the glasses and click Apply, Hide, Isolate to View. This is going to make sure that the cyan box disappears and this view is going to be saved and all the elements you've hidden will remain hidden. Now, go back to your sheet that you just created, A1. Scroll up to the floor plan that you just worked on. In my case, it was first floor copy 1. And drag it, click on it and drag it onto the screen on the sheet. And it will appear something like this. If it for some reason appears to be bigger or smaller on your sheet, click on the plan twice so that you are working within the plan. And then in the bottom left corner, change the size to be 1/8 of an inch equals to a foot. If it's going to be anything else, it will be either too small or too big. You might have to adjust the location of your elevation tags or any other elements to make sure that your floor plans will fit in. So this is how you insert a view on your sheet. Double click anywhere outside of the viewport. When you click on the viewport, you can, or hover over it, you can see the outline appears. Double click somewhere else or press escape several times in order for you to start looking at other elements on the sheet. Now we can see at the bottom we have a title of that specific view. Usually it corresponds with the name of the plan or the elevation that you're inserting. For instance, this is a first floor copy 1. And you can see at the bottom there is a scale. You can change this. You can press somewhere outside of the viewport, or press escape several times and only click on this title once. You can see the viewport 1 appears. Here you can select viewport 1 and viewport no title if you have it. If you don't have it, let's create one. Go to edit type, duplicate, create viewport, and write somewhere no title. Once you do that, make sure your screen looks like mine afterwards. Change the show title to no, line weight to 1, line pattern to solid, color black. Press OK. What it does, essentially, it hides that name, that the title of the viewport, and only leaves the viewport itself. Now repeat the same process for the second floor, the third floor, and the rooftop deck, and place all of them equally spaced out on this sheet. Once you finish placing all the floor plans on this sheet, this is what it's supposed to look like. Now you will notice that my second floor and the third floor does not have any furniture. Well, that is because this is one of your assignments that you should have done before the final submission. So make sure that yours show furniture on the second and third floor plan. When it comes to the rooftop deck, one thing it will have different is that we actually want to show some entourage on this plan. For instance, if you double click inside of the floor plan, go to visibility and graphics, and look for trees, because technically this portion of the plan has to have plants. And they should be in a model category under planting. Press OK so that you can see those trees. There you go. Now you can see the trees, the chairs, the planters, and everything else that you need on this plan. Once you've done the A1 sheet, let's create another sheet that will show one of the floor plans fully dimensioned. Let's create another sheet similar to the one we have created. Go to Sheets, right click, New Sheet, and pick the one that you saved as an arc. So that it already comes with this template. Now make a copy or use the first floor plan that you've worked on before with the dimensions. For instance, in my case, it will be this plan. This is my first floor plan enlarged with the dimensions labeled already. I want you to go ahead and only use your first floor plan in order to put these dimensions and put the room names into this floor plan. For instance, you can see I'm dimensioning exterior walls to interior walls. Since we have a square building, you don't have to dimension a squareness of the design for every side. You can see I have it 80 feet on one side, 80 feet on the other side. And then I dimensioned the location of interior walls, as well as half walls, as well as some furniture. So you will have a PDF of this available for you, for your reference. Make sure that you put the room names somewhere where it doesn't overlap with the rest of the drawings for clarity. Whenever you create a floor plan like this, you need to enlarge the scale. The way you do this, and in the top left corner, you click on the scale and select 1/4 of an inch equals a foot. This way it's going to be large enough to fit in on this sheet. Again, if you have any extra elements such as exterior elements, the entourage, the plants outside, any lines that are unnecessary, hide them, as I have shown earlier. Once you're done adding all the dimensions, make sure that you change the name of the sheet to be Enlarged First Floor Plan. And once you import any view, it starts with you having a viewport title. In this case, we do want to see this title because it shows us the scale for the specific view plan. So click on the title alone and drag it to the point where you can see it right underneath this area of the title block. And you can see there's an extension line that goes all the way to the right. If you click on the viewport title itself, it will not change it. But if you click on the viewport, you'll have an ability to now drag this using the blue circle to the right. This way you can see that there is the name, first floor enlarged, and the scale, 1/4 inch to 1 foot. Let's go back to our A1 sheet with our floor plans and add a text instead of a title for the viewport indicating which floor plan it is. First floor, second floor, third floor, and rooftop deck. Let's go to annotate while we're in the sheet and not in a specific viewport. Click on text and using the 1/4 inch of Arial. For now, let's see how large it is. Click somewhere and type first floor plan. Now this may not be large enough for us, so let's see what other options do we have. If you have a 1/2 inch Arial, that's great. If you don't, go to edit type, create duplicate, change it to half inch Arial. Under text size, you'll also have to change it to 1/2 inch, and everything else should stay the same. So 1/2 inch Arial, and this is large enough for our project. Another thing I want you to try to do is in edit type, make sure your show border is checked so that you can see the first floor plan text now is outlined with a line. Do the same for the rest of the plans and try to fit it in somewhere where you have space. Once you've finished renaming the plans, this is what you should see. First floor plan, second floor plan, third floor plan, and rooftop deck plan. At this point in time, let's create a site sheet. Go to the sheets, new sheet, as we usually do, create new sheet. And now from the floor plan views that you have, you should have a site view available under the floor plans. You can go ahead and drag it into your screen right here. Most likely it will be dragged in a very small scale, so double click on it and on the left side, change the scale up until it fits in very nicely on the screen. I personally use the 3/16 of an inch equals a foot, but I still see my topography being over the borderline of my sheet. In order for me to cut it and essentially crop it, I would need to show crop region in the bottom left corner, and now you will see there's another box that appears, and you can drag it to crop it in a certain spot. Here on the left side, right side, and all other sides, I crop it to fit in within my sheet area. I might even crop it a bit more. Once you've done this, go ahead and try to paste it a little bit closer to the border on the top side so you can fit in your title. And title name can stay the same, or if you want, you can change it here. Well, in this case, my title is overlapping with my viewport. So in order for me to change the name, I drag it out of the viewport, type in site plan, and leave it at that. Maybe make this shorter and put it back. Now, but in this case, you're still seeing this border, and whenever you print something, you do not want to see it. Typically, it's set in a way that you're not going to see the border. However, to ensure that, just go ahead and hide crop region. This way you're able to see everything that you cut without seeing the border. Let's change the sheet name to be site plan, and everything else that is shown here can remain here except for a few things that may not be necessary. For instance, our grid lines, I personally will press HC, hide category, and the same goes for elevation tags. And the same goes for this section, HC, HC, HC. Everything else, probably the reference lines as well. Everything else works fine because what I'm seeing is from the bird's eye view, I can see my 2 roofs on the top of my building. I can see the trees, I can see the line work, I can see the cars. One thing I'm not seeing is the furniture on the rooftop deck. So let's go, first of all, let's make sure we apply to make sure those things that we hid are not going to appear again. Go to visibility and graphics, and let's scroll down until we see furniture systems. It was unchecked, meaning it was not going to show up on our plan. We checked it, and now we can see our furniture show up on our rooftop deck plan. Once you finish drawing the site plan, repeat the A1 sheet floor plan, but for the ceiling planks. Essentially what you're looking for is a sheet that contains 3 floors, first, second, and third, We're not counting for rooftop deck because there is no ceiling plan on that. Whenever you create the ceiling plans, these are the elements that you want to keep. Essentially the grid, the doors, the walls, the spot elevations, which are located under Annotate, Spot Elevation, and make sure you pick the ones that say relative, target relative, and other things you can make lighter. For instance, the elevation, the room tags, you can see are lighter in my case than they would be on the floor plan views. And the way I accomplish this, if again I go to visibility and graphics under annotation categories, I press R for room tags have a check mark under half-tone, meaning those will be half-toned in my plan view. In order to avoid spending lots of time doing the same things all over again, you can create a template. That once you create a template, all other views that will have this template applied to will have the same things visible and invisible. How do we go about creating one? It's actually fairly simple. Let's go to any plan. For instance, this one right here. And we already made the changes that we wanted. We put spot elevations. We made the grids appear in a certain way. We made the room tags appear to be half-tone and all other things as we see fit. Now, in this case, this is already on a sheet, but it's fine. You can right-click on any of the views. You can press the plus sign on the left side from the sheet name and right-click on any of the signs. And there on the very top, you will be able to see Apply Template Properties or Create View Template from View. This is what you're looking for. Press on this and it will ask you for the name. Let's say you want to call it Ceiling Plan Name. I already created one. And once you've done it, you would need to apply it. So while still selecting one of these ceiling plans, go in your Properties area down to View Template and click here on the name of the plan you just created, Ceiling Plan, and apply this for all of the ceiling plan views that you have. And you will notice all of them automatically adjust to show things that you selected for one plan to show, and will not show things that you selected for that plan not to show. Also, make sure to label them first floor, second floor, and third floor, and change the ceiling plans sheet on this side. Once you finish creating the ceiling plans, let's create the elevation sheet. For instance, all of my elevations here are at the 1/8 of an inch equals a foot scale, and I already created a new template called elevation. I can easily apply it throughout all of my elevations. I already have labels west, east, north, and south applied. On one of the elevations, I hid the levels because I can easily stretch the levels from another elevation across this elevation so that I don't have lines overlapping on top of each other. So in this case, you can see there's no active elevations present, active levels present. But if I click on the east, you can see that these lines show up very clearly, and that's because I dragged them from one side to the other side using this circle and this blue circle as well. Repeat the same process for all of your elevations and try to keep the elevations to the minimum to showcase pretty much the doors, the windows, the header and the sill, as well as the roofs and the levels. You don't need to show grids or any other exterior elements. Once you finished creating the elevations sheet, the last thing that would be beneficial for you to do in terms of the sheet layout is to create a 3D view that you can easily import on a sheet. For instance, the easiest way to go onto a 3D view would be to go to the top left side of your ribbon and click on Default 3D View. It will take you to a 3D view that is pretty, as it says, default. Now, a few things that you want to hide in order to make it a bit more of architectural presentation. You can hide the levels, HH. You can try to adjust the detail level to be fine and change the graphic display options to be smooth lines with anti-aliasing, as well as the shadows to be show ambient shadows. You can play with other parameters as you see fit. Then once you created this view and you applied the hidden elements, you want to go into that specific view. It's under 3D views, and copy it. Duplicate view, duplicate with detailing. And let's call it sheet view. Now let's go ahead and create a sheet, new sheet, arc. On this blank sheet, let's import that sheet view, and most likely we'll have to trim it a little bit or change the scale. In order to change the scale, again, double click into the viewport and change the scale on the left side from 1/8 of an inch to, let's say, 1 inch equals 10 feet. That's in my case. You might have something else appear depending on the site size of your topography. Once you've finished with this, put it in the middle of your sheet, and you can, if you want, you can hide the title just like this. Now let's call it an axonometric view. And finally, let's create one more sheet. And let's add miscellaneous stuff to this sheet, for instance, such as sections, details, enlarged views, and 3D camera views. Let's start with the most fun one, is the 3D camera views. Proceed to your first floor plan that showcases your furniture. Go to view, 3D view, and scroll down until you see camera. And pick any view that you would like. For instance, in my case, I would like to pick a view from this side all the way to the end of the building. And this is what I will see. Now, a few other things I want to change to this specific view is I want to change the detail level to be fine. I want to change the visual style to be smooth lines and show ambient shadows. I think I kind of like this. Obviously, we don't have a table here, but we represent it in a line form, which is sufficient for this purpose right now. Now we have created this view and we are able to see it under 3D view number 2. Let's change the name to be 3D camera 1. Another view that we would like to create, if you go back to the same first floor, is an enlarged plan view. For instance, if you want to highlight a few things in your plan. Typically, enlarged plan views include restrooms because you want to add a lot of information as to what goes into a restroom. Since we're not putting in any fixtures at this point, the one view that we would like to highlight is the elevation. In order to create an enlarged plan view within the plan view, go to View tab. Under View tab, you will see a call out. Click on this one and essentially create a you press once in the top left corner and drag it to the bottom right corner, and you will see this outline appear. And you can, if you click on it once, you're able to move the location of this bubble. Double click on it or right click and go to View, and you will be able to see the enlarged plane of only that specific portion. Now we do not want to see the section, we do not want to see the grids. I hide them using HH command, and I change the detail view to be fine, as well as the typical smooth lines, shadows, show ambient shadows. Now this I can already import on my sheet. Let's go back to the sheet we just created. A7, first floor call out is the enlarged plan view, which the scale is not very promising. Let's change the scale to be larger, not 1/4 of an inch, but 1/2 an inch. And you can see how much larger the image appears. We can keep the title here or we can hide it. In my case, I would like to hide it. And let's import here a 3D camera view. However, when it comes to 3D camera views, there's not an easy way to enlarge the image, and that is fine. For the purpose of this project, we're going to keep it at this scale. 2 more things left for us to add to this sheet would be our section and a detail from a section. You may have already drawn sections for your project. Let's go ahead and bring them into this sheet. Let's bring section 1 right here, and let's make it larger. Let's bring it up to about 1/4 of an inch equals a foot, and put it somewhere here on the left side. You can see there's already crop region applied. Let's actually bring it up higher so that we are not cropping through any trees, which we actually don't even need in this specific view. So let's hide category for those, hide category for grids, reference planes, anything that you may think is not important. So this is our building section. This is a section cutting our entire building into 2 halves, essentially. Let's click apply. And while we're in this view, let's create a detail view. It's the same process as creating an enlarged view. You go to View tab, Callout, and you create a callout around a specific portion of your building. For instance, right here, which is called a parapet detail, parapet to roof connection. Once you created it, you can go to View and see the specific detail on a bit larger scale. Let's make sure we capture the name, callout1, and bring that detail to this sheet right here. And obviously let's increase the size to even larger one since we have enough space for it. 1 inch equals a foot is fine. And now you can see this same detail, and whatever modeling we do for this detail is going to appear here. And this is essentially an idea of how you can create a building section, add details, add camera views, add enlarged plans, and etc. Let's call this one MISC. At this point, you have created 7 sheets: floor plans, enlarged first floor plan, side plan, ceiling plans, elevations, axonometric view, and miscellaneous. That will be the wrap up of your office building project. In order to submit your final project, just submit your Revit file. Do not submit images or PDFs, but make sure you have the sheets ready so that I can easily go into them and see your progress. Thank you.